Now we're all informed. I forgot to do this last 2 months ago, last January, but I want everyone to identify themselves, and I'm going to start out. Can you get that? Okay, I hung up on somebody. But I want to introduce everybody to introduce themselves, and I'll introduce myself first. And I'm Michael Bowes. I'm the executive director of the Association for the Initiative, and I've been doing that for a long time. I'm admitting people, so 11 people, I guess, now. But the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative has been around for 25 years, and that's been a long time. And I've been executive director for 25 years, and that's been a long time. So, Valerie, do you want to check in?
Sure. Hi, everyone. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Valerie Pennanen. I'm a recently retired history professor at Calumet College of St. Joseph, and a tree hugger from way back.
Okay, Maya.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maya Etienne, the co-executive director of Calumet Collaborative, Bi-State Sustainable Economic Development Organization, and I'm here located in Gary, Indiana.
Tessa.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name's Tessa Murray. I am the Watershed Policy Manager for Friends of the Chicago River. We facilitate a group called the Greater Chicago Watershed Alliance, where we're looking to sort of bridge gaps between the different watershed and sub-watershed groups in our region. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Phil.
I'm Philip Willink. In this context, I guess I'll be president of the board of directors of Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative, but Michael does all the work. I don't do much. I've done fish and mud puppy research at Wolf Lake and a bunch of other fish stuff in the region.
And he's will be publishing a book at the end of the year or so.
Spring 2025, about a year from now. We're trying to shorten that, but books take a while to go through the process.
Okay, and that's the University of Chicago. So, Lindsay, welcome.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Hilton Adams. I'm the Northwest Watershed Specialist with IDEM.
Okay, Holly? Holly?
Yes, just got to find the button. Everybody, I'm Holly Hudson. I'm a senior aquatic biologist at the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. I've been in the position a long time, also worked for the predecessor agency, Northeastern Illinois Planning Commission. So I've been working on lakes, streams, and watersheds for over 30 years.
Right.
And if I could ask actually everyone, would you like me to try to take notes like I did last time? And I'll try to get them back to everybody sooner.
That would be great.
Thank you very much for doing that, Holly. That is really helpful.
And
Great.
if I could ask everybody actually then to put their name and affiliation and maybe your title, your position in the chat, and that would be helpful to me. Thanks.
Okay. Joey.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joey Hines. I'm currently working with Lake County Parks as a technician. Before that, I worked contracting. I've been working restoration for about 5 years now. And I live up in Robertsdale, right by the lake. So it's pretty important to me
And
being so close to it.
Yeah, he's also a water sampler for Ollie. And they'll be starting their second year next month. And Jeff Edstrom.
Yes.
How you
everyone
doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
All right. It's been a long
Thanks.
time.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Jeff Edstrom. I'm the non-point source pollution unit manager at Illinois EPA down in Springfield, but I'm actually a South Sider in Chicago. So
Harry Siegel.
Yeah, I'm a retired steelworker, and I worked at Cleveland Cliffs in East Chicago, the old Inland Steel, and I grew up just a couple blocks south of the Grand Calumet River, Columbia Avenue, as a kid. So and when I was a kid, it was it was a little smelly, a little quicksandy, So big difference now. We tried to clean it up a little bit, so that's been good. So just concerned about that we kind of take care of Mother Earth along the way here, because we haven't done a good job being stewards for it, really, when you look at the pollution that industry has done for about 25 years to the area here. So we need to change our mindset and the paradigm. We want to clean things up instead of these extreme legal limits of pollution that they allow.
And I just might note Terry's really good at researching what's going on in the area. And I depend on him quite a bit. He doesn't know it, but what he does is very important to me. Lisa?
Yep. Let me put my video on too for just a second. So I'm Lisa Soa Downs. I live just a few blocks from Wolf Lake. I'm one of the water testers for the association. I serve on the Conservation Committee for Pathway to Adventures Council through Scouting. I'm one of the leaders with Cub Scout Pack 773, and we really in our pack work very hard to be conservation minded with our scouts and to involve them in projects throughout the area, doing conservation projects and picking up trash and planting milkweed and making sure they're aware of all the different places to hike in the area and things going on in the area. I recently also just became involved with the Port Authority and working to help them open up the Port Authority to people in the area. So that'll be interesting. I think that's it.
All right, that's a lot. Mary Ann, good afternoon. Mary Ann, you're on mute. Or maybe she just wandered away. But so anyway, I want to thank Holly for writing the notes. Before we get started, I kind of want to clarify something that may be a very, and it's a question over why Hammond objected to our efforts in 2007. And it wasn't as if, and a little bit of history to this, in 2005 and 6, we asked all the managers at Wolf Lake to appoint someone to our board so they could keep track of what we were doing. And so all the managers did, including the city of Hammond. And then we scheduled a public meeting in middle of that 2007, and 2 days before we were to hold the public meeting, the city of Hammond voted, Common Council voted to object to our work in getting the plan together. And we hadn't and so there were a lot of people, or quite a few people in the city of Hammond, that knew what we were doing, and because we were keeping open what we were doing. And this included one of the people that was very active was Art Peschke, and Lisa knows him. I'm sure he was very active. Well, he was head of the Boy Scouts in the bi-state area, and he was on the board of the Hammond Parks Department, Parks and Recreation, and he was the head of their not-for-profit organization that handled all the donations to the city of Hammond. They would go through his folks. So he was very active, and in fact, we had a meeting with him. Okay, something went wrong there for a second. And so we, Dr. White, who was with Indiana DNR at the time, was representing them, was at one of our meetings, and we found out that next door that Art Peschke and some of his friends were meeting. I think it may have been a scout meeting. I don't know but we invited ourselves over so Dr. White could talk to him about the plans, that the discussions we've had, and answered all of the questions. And so that was kind of the extent. But at this point, we had just we sent out a request for people to come in and conduct the meetings that we're going to have. And so we had about 6 applicants that we had requested that would guide us through the process. And we hadn't even discussed them yet. And but we thought it was time to have a public meeting, and so we requested one. And then 2 days before it, we didn't learn, but anyway, apparently the letter was written that objected to our efforts. And I would imagine that the most active manager with Ollie at the time was the city of Hammond. The other managers were kept informed of what we were doing, but we had not talked to any of them. We hadn't given, and so the most that we had worked with to that date was with the city of Hammond. And that kind of gives a little bit of background to that process. And so I don't know if anyone had questions. I had sent the papers out, and I think most people have taken a look at that. But anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. Were there other questions on the notes that Holly took? No one wants to yell at her or anything? Okay. Um,
So actually, Michael, so just so I'm clear, so it sounds like actually you had what mostly been in discussions with City of Hammond folks to this point, as opposed to even more so than the other lake managers.
oh, yes, by
Is that
far.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah, they had the representatives on our board, but those are the only people we talked to, and there wasn't much discussion. There really wasn't much discussion with anyone. That's what when Hammond sent this letter in.
Recording in progress.
Okay, something's happening there. Sorry. Yeah, Holly. So yeah, it was, and the thing is, there was nothing really had important had happened except except with the return of the bids, with the bids being submitted, and 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 so I think that was probably why we had that public meeting, because that was the first time we had some information that was had advanced the process to that point. And so anyway, so the I guess um, I don't know exactly what I don't know what the real reason was, but and it doesn't make any difference now, but it's kind of important not to have that happen again. And so, were there any other questions? And I do have a collection of papers from 2007. I think maybe everyone has received it here, but if you need it, it was maybe 5 or 6 pages from 2007. That would give you a little bit of a background. No other questions about the notes? Okay, and I want to thank Holly a lot for taking it.
Yes, thank you.
And can we count on you to do the same?
I'm doing my best.
Okay.
I realized I didn't, re-listen to the recording where I might have, been able to capture things I missed. But again, anybody can go in there and fill in some blanks.
Right.
Keep the note taker happy. That's the key.
Okay.
I'm happy.
Yeah, there's one other thing. If you need to make some contact with some city officials, they are having a mayor's night out tonight at Irving School there in Hammond, and the cafeteria there at 6:30. Usually the department heads are there with the mayor, so if somebody needs to go there and raise some issues, might not be a bad idea if you got some things.
Okay. I know Valerie's been attending their board meetings.
Well, not exactly. I've been watching them. Sometimes I've been watching them live on YouTube, and other times I've watched, watched the recording. Once again, no one from the city of Hammond is present at this meeting, and I'd really welcome suggestions as to how to get someone in. I mean, the thing that happened in 2007 was unspeakably awful and indefensible, but it happened so many years ago now. I don't think any of the people who were on the board at that time are still on. I mean, the council, I think they're all different people now. Ollie's annual, I'm sorry, I always forget what the November meeting is called. But they pay for that. The city of Hammond subsidizes that meeting every year. So they don't officially oppose us, but I just can't seem to get anything out of them, you know, I wrote a letter. And Michael, did you send them the Zoom link for today just in case somebody would show up?
I sent 72 people,
Yeah,
not the Zoom link, but the invitation.
yeah.
And
You know,
uh,
I wrote to them last month and, you know, was very, you know, very emphatic that we wanted to invite them into the conversation and that we need them, and you know, but no one is here. I'll shut up in a minute, but I just want to share this. So I have ever since my retirement, I've been watching the Hammond Common Council meetings online, and they always allow for public expression at the very end of the meeting after there is no more business to be conducted. And lately what's been happening is that one or two people, earlier this week on Monday night, it was two people from a group called the Dune Dusters show up. They show up very regularly at the Common Council meetings and speak. There's a gentleman named Ken Rosek, and then there is a younger gentleman who goes by TJ. I haven't caught his last name, but they both got up to speak at the end of the council meeting this past Monday, and it was the same thing as before. TJ is very, very diplomatic. Oh, I'm sorry, I should say their cause is a wooded area in Hessville neighbor of Hammond, called Briar East Woods, and that is, you know, going very, very likely it's going to be partially destroyed for, you know, a bridge that it's very controversial. But TJ will get up and be very diplomatic and say, we had a lovely cleanup day at the woods, you know, yesterday or whatever. And we think it would be lovely if the city of Hammond could sponsor our next cleanup. And by the way, there are so many people there who talked about how, you know, how the woods are a sanctuary to them and so on. So TJ gets up and, you know, tries to speak, you know, very, very nicely, sweet talk the council in case that will line them up on the Dune Dusters side. And then Mr. Rosek gets up and he scolds the council and, you know, criticizes the mayor and so forth about all the, you know, all the things they've done wrong where the woods are concerned. So they each speak in a very different style. And I don't think either approach is working in terms of getting the council on board with what they're trying to do. So it seems that being diplomatic doesn't work. I'm a diplomatic type myself most of the time, but right now it seems being diplomatic doesn't work and being nasty sure doesn't work, or being aggressive and critical doesn't work, I should say. So what do you do? I'm willing to do anything to get at least one representative of the city of Hammond to come in and talk to us, but it hasn't worked yet.
yeah, Valerie, I think you probably just have to keep trying. And my experience is through 20, 25 years I've been doing this, is that we would have an event. I would invite the mayor to come and be our luncheon speaker. And he would come in with maybe 3 or 4 or 5 others, and he would give his talk, and then all the administrators that are with him, they would leave with the mayor. And so they would never attend the meetings, but they would, except when the mayor was there.
When did the mayor last speak at an Ollie gathering?
Oh, I don't know, probably in 2012 2012 or 2010, something like that. We had them for
Okay.
quite a few meetings then, and
Uh-huh.
at the at different meetings. So,
Mhm.
but he hasn't. I don't know. He's never attended any of our meetings
No.
since then,
Well,
and he
well,
wasn't.
go on.
So that makes the difference. If
Yeah.
we had asked him to speak, I'm sure he would have come,
Mm,
and I don't know how many others, but they would not remain. They would go with him.
yeah. Well, the one bit of encouraging news there is that he has spoken to Ollie since 2007, at least.
Oh yeah.
So he's not sitting on top of some giant grudge, so far as we know.
So it's
No.
the same mayor.
Yes,
Same.
had him for 20 years now.
There is no grudge. I don't think there's a grudge. I don't think anyone dislikes me.
No.
I don't think that's an issue at all, because they do it to everybody. They just don't do it to me. I'm just explaining how they treat me.
Right.
And I think as your friends at the meetings are finding out, they just you know they I can't we can't go around thinking people have grudge against us.
No,
really
what I
don't.
was saying though was I'd wondered, after what happened in 2007, whether there was sort of bad blood on the city's side, but uh,
It's really important for me to know that. For
yeah,
me, at that
right,
first, I got thinking, well, what did I do wrong? What's
right.
going on?
No,
And then you sit back and then you figure it out, and other people will tell you, and so you learn things. But I've never felt that they've had a grudge against me.
no, well, that's good anyway. We just have to get their attention and get them to participate. And well, I'll keep trying, but again, if anyone has any suggestions, please let me know.
If I could, I'd like to make a couple comments. The Dune Dusters are doing some fantastic work there,
Mhm.
trying to preserve a
Mhm.
4,700-year-old dune ridge,
Yes,
which is ecologically a
Mhm.
treasure to Hammond
right.
that it seems like the mayor and the city council hasn't totally grasped yet. And once you destroy it, it's gone. In
Yes,
the 70s, they destroyed half of it because of ignorance, and they've made their case with NDOT and IDEM and the city, and even now they're talking to the federal railroad administration about the situation, because the real problem is the over on Grand Avenue that would solve the problem, because there's three schools along Grand
Right.
Avenue, and
Right.
it would keep the kids from hopping the trains over there. It's the important thing. So it's a matter of, especially if you're a Hammond resident, if you go there and use your 3 minutes to speak, it's important. And like I said, Ken and TJ are doing some important work there, and Joey's helped out over there too with
Oh, that's
a lot of
wonderful.
activities.
Believe
So
me, I know they're doing wonderful things. It's just that I don't think they're speaking to the council week in and week out has done any good.
well,
I wish that it would.
if it wouldn't have been for them, there'd have been a bridge through the woods already.
You figure,
So,
yeah.
so
Uh-huh.
they've done a lot of good.
That's
Sometimes
good.
it feels
That's
like
good.
you're not making the progress you need, but sometimes it takes that long to get everybody
Yes.
from different levels of government and everything involved and understanding the whole concept.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for that perspective, Terry.
Yeah, and I think it's important to reach out to go to the city council meetings, and like I said, everybody's got 3 minutes,
Mhm.
and you can be a visitor and go to the council, and you got 3 minutes. And as long as you're speaking the truth and the facts, don't worry about somebody's feelings.
Right.
That's always my opinion about
Right.
it. And then one other thing I think, as far as this meeting, I think maybe you should try and get Mark Klawinski, the first district councilman,
He
know,
has been invited
well,
multiple
you know,
times, but
if you have to, go knock
fine.
on the door. You
Yeah,
know, sometimes that's what it takes, you know.
yes.
Or go to the council meeting and give them an invitation, give them all an invitation to come,
Yeah.
you know. A lot of what they've done, they've tried to get the council over to the Briar East Woods so they can walk the woods and understand it. And they've had professional people as far as the environment involved over there. And it's how they've identified the property in Briar East as a dune ridge, which is it's like I said, it's different than a dune and swale. In fact,
Yeah.
Dr. Schoon from IUN, he was made actually a few years ago was just made aware of this, and he used to take students over to Gibson Woods,
Yes.
and he says if I'd have known this was here before when I was doing all the teaching at IUN, I would have also brought my students here so they could see the
Yes.
dune ridge.
Yes.
You know,
How,
so
how far is that from Gibson Woods?
it's about probably half to 3/4 of a mile north
Okay,
on Parish,
okay,
right off of Parish, and then it runs from Parish over to Grand Avenue.
okay.
You know,
I know,
and
I
there's
know.
about 35 acres there.
Yes,
And you know, so I mean, it's something, you know, once you realize the ecological value of that property, people should understand why it needs to be preserved. You know,
and
'cause
Gibson Woods is a great place as well, so
yeah.
It is.
So,
Hammond is
but
lucky.
the city's got different ideas. You know, all they think is development and build houses and things like that. And that was their goal there, I think. But that still didn't solve the problem of the children going to the 3 schools on Grand Avenue. There's where they need to either build a bridge or an underpass at Grand Avenue, and that would solve the problem for everybody because it would save the woods also. So
Right.
that's their goal. And you got to give them credit for hanging with it.
Yes. And bringing the feds into the conversation too.
Well, they've brought all levels of government they've brought into it, you know, so that's been good. I mean, it's a matter now of everybody doing the right thing. It's like we told the state back when they had the public hearing, you know, in 1970s, you didn't know, you were ignorant about the situation. Now you know the facts, so it's up to them to make the right decision.
So Lindsay, wonder if you wonder what kind of people we are to sit here and talk about uh, city politics this way. But knowing the background, is there any advice that you could give us as a group on how to approach this?
Yeah, no, it's helpful to get the background information because, yeah, I'm not super familiar with everything that's been going on up here. Unfortunately, you know, I am still somewhat new in this role, so the whole, you know, aspect of networking with, you know, different groups and collaborating and things, I don't have a ton of experience with, you know, how to improve success on that front. But I guess one question I had is what's the kind of the time frame you guys are looking at as far as you know, developing a plan?
You know, we're meeting on a bi-monthly basis, and I don't particularly like to rush things because and I like to just start out fresh, new, and take, you know, and go at a speed that's and will get us there. And you know, when we did it in 2007, I had no idea what I was getting into, and then or even the length of time. But so I'm willing to keep meeting as long as we're making headway. And
Okay.
I think that's the best way to go. Do you have any time frame, Holly, that you've been thinking about?
Again, you know, it's like you say, you don't need to push it or rush it. You just, you know, start to bring the pieces together. And I guess because this watershed is a we're on a bi-state situation. If we want to develop again, it's not a lake study, it's a watershed-based plan. My idea was looking at developing meeting the 9 elements required by US EPA to meet, a watershed-based plan. Again, addressing, the bi-state challenge, having the Indiana funding side and the Illinois funding side coming together, or if there's some sort of larger overarching grant from a Great Lakes perspective, perhaps, but exploring those options and opportunities. And what was that other thing? Oh, right. There might be a little different, Illinois might have some different requirements or, added requirements as well as Indiana. So just understanding what those opportunities are in terms of grant funding on a bi-state level to develop a 9-element plan.
Okay.
And then,
I think
which opens up the door, right,
ahead.
for some maybe 319 funding for different projects.
And Jeff, this is the first meeting you've been at. What advice do you have for me or for all of us?
Well, sure. I can say right now, Illinois has a notice of funding opportunity for the 319 program. And we actually have 2 notice of funding opportunities, one for watershed-based plan implementation. That's implementing projects to restore things for non-point source pollution. We also have one for watershed-based planning, developing a plan. And I can actually send you a copy of the questions that are in the applications. It's an online system, but it's you have to have what we call a GATA account to get into it. Holly has that, so you can see that. But I can send you the questions, and so you can see what we ask for. I can also send you. There's a review document that we look at when we look at a finalized watershed-based plan, is that just show what are the things we need to see in it. Whether what's the watershed characterization, what's the identification of the problems, what are the types of projects that would need to be implemented to address the project, what's the information outreach strategy, what are the funding opportunities for dealing with the non-point source problems. And the plans, you have to remember, are for basically voluntary action for us. They can't be for things that are required by permit or for point source pollution problems. It's got to be the non-point. So there's and Holly's been involved on the Illinois side with working with different groups to develop watershed-based plans through CMAP, and they've done a lot of leading that. So, but we can get you some information and talk to you a little bit more about those kinds of things. We're a little bit behind on our notice funding opportunities. We're actually going to have one later in the year as well, which will be, I think, in the fall. And we also have the 604 program for doing watershed-based planning, which is, and that was more focused on planning than what we have right now. And that one's also for point and non-point source pollution, deals with those kinds of issues.
I'm not familiar with that. I do have to admit, and I hadn't even thought about this for a while, but before the 2007 happened, I submitted a 319 to, this must have been maybe 2002, 3. I had no idea what I was doing, but I submitted the 319 to both the state of Illinois, and then I submitted something to Indiana of a similar nature. I don't know if it was the 319 or what is it, 205, but I submitted something to them, and I didn't get a response from either one, and I kind of know why, because I didn't really know what I was doing. But so that did kind of prepare me for 2007.
Well, and also there's the Illinois DNR coastal program also has some funding that they've also helped pay for watershed-based plans in Lake County, Illinois, for the Lake Michigan watersheds up there. So that's another funding mechanism there.
Okay, and Lindsay, the Indiana DNR has some help too, do they not?
Yeah, I was going to say you could also reach out to our DNR Lake Michigan Coastal Program and see, you know, what kind of funding they could offer you. I was going to kind of tag on to what he just said and let you know that our 319 grant solicitation announcements getting ready to go up for the fiscal year 25 funds. So like he said, if you want to take a look and see the application information and what would be required there, that'll be on our website probably next week, I would think.
Okay.
Do you send out, like, will you email, like, do you have a contact list where you'll also send an email to notify folks, Lindsay?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So I can include you guys in that as well.
That'd be super. Are there other, like, so like you heard Jeff and on the Illinois side mention 604B, 604B, again, another section of the Clean Water Act that just, you know, can fund planning. So it can fund the development of watershed-based plans in Illinois. Now on the Indiana side, I don't think 604 funds are put out for grants. Is that correct? It's kept within DEM, but is there a similar grant program just for planning on the Indiana side, like 205J?
Yeah, I was going to say we have 205J that's exclusively for planning. But yeah, I'm not familiar with the 605B. Is that what you were calling it? Yeah, I don't think that we we don't do a lot with that in our program, but so you guys would be either using 319 or 205J funds for a plan like this.
Is there then a similar notice of funding opportunity for your 205J funds?
I believe it's all the same. And then when you send in an NOI and then an application, we kind of decide internally whether that would be which path that would get funded through. So you wouldn't need to apply separately, I don't believe. I can clarify or double check on that, but
if that's the same application.
Yeah, I think you would just apply one time and we would kind of decide what was the best fit.
But, yeah,
Have you talked to NERPC about this as well? Because
that's where we're kind of, it's missing here as well.
Kathy Luther and whoever else.
Kathy's been invited both times, but I invite her to a lot of things that of course she can't attend. But yeah, she knows what we're doing. And she's been very helpful in the past. And if we really need her, she would be there. But I don't think we've come close to that point yet.
Might be worthwhile having a talk with her again as a regional planning agency, assuming, you know, relationships with the different municipalities and townships and whatnot as well, could be helpful. Just back to the 319 versus 205J, Lindsay, do those, again, 319 typically requires a minimum 40% match.
Yes.
Do you require your 205J funds to also have a similar match?
I don't believe there is match required for 205J. That's a good question.
Because that'd be interesting, it being in the same application, if you're not, if you as the applicant aren't specifying which way you're going, that impacts your budget.
Yeah.
Calculations.
And I think you would just be applying for 319, assuming that's the case. And then, yeah, I'll double check on that. Like I said, I'm still new and kind of learning the ins and outs of both programs, but I'm fairly certain there's no match required for 205J.
Okay.
You know, at one time, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, Bill, this came up at one of our November meetings, and the person from Indiana was proposing that she fund the entire process. And but I was hoping that Lindsay would say the same thing, that policy may have changed.
I'm sorry,
Sorry,
say
I
that
missed,
again.
yeah, I missed the question too.
Okay, that about 4 or 5 years ago, someone from your department came to our meeting and spoke to it and said something that they would be willing to pay for the entire process by state on both sides of the state. And I was hoping that was still in vogue, but maybe not.
So it's someone from IDEM?
Yeah. And we never got that far because we ran into concerns about the water in the at Indian Creek in the watershed, and not knowing that the groundwater situation there. And so, and that problem probably should not exist today, because I think there's a Superfund site right there now, and I think they've been doing some work on hydrology there. But yeah, but at the time, and I was surprised that they could do that. But if you could just check that out, that would solve, if we could agree on same approach on both sides of from both states, that would solve a lot of problems, I would think.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to specifically.
Yeah,
Sorry, I might just be confused.
It was 5 or 6 years ago, and I just can't remember her talk, but she was she said that, that she would initiate the process, and but we never got to that point because we determined there was other problems that had to be figured out before we did it. But I was just wondering if there was a way of just using one application for both states. That would simplify it.
Speaking from Illinois, that wouldn't happen. To have one application for, I mean, it's the same information. It's just you have to answer the questions because you're competing against other projects that we have to compare it against in Illinois. So,
okay.
And I just put in the chat, I put a link to the joint evaluation form for how we look at watershed-based plans, as well as a link to the watershed-based planning notice of funding opportunity information. It's got all the application questions and in there in a PDF format. So you'd see when you do the online application, what are the questions we're asking? And we've got an attached spreadsheet to fill out as well for more information about it. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a question. This is kind of defined as the Wolf Lake Watershed. Is it, so could anybody explain to me what geographically what the area of the watershed you're looking at, and maybe that helps explain maybe some other people that should be involved.
Well, there are 6 managers in the watershed. The problem is we don't know exactly how large the watershed is. That's why we're doing this. And and so that's the city of Hammond, city of Chicago, county of Lake, county of Cook, and Indiana DNR and Illinois DNR. So those, I see it as, those are the 6 managers. And so they all should be equally involved in this process. And I have a representative from 4 of the managers on Ollie's board. Missing is Indiana DNR, but we work closely with them, so I don't see that as a problem. And the city of Chicago, which I can't even find out the person that should be represented. I assume it would be the Department of Environment, and I have reached out to them on more than just this problem, but on several other problems, and I've never received a response. So I guess I just keep trying. But
Okay. So can
Michael, would you
have-
like, I was going to say if I could, so again, you have designated spots for these at least these 6 managers on the AWLI board. And so is that what I'm hearing?
I have 4 of them represented by folks on the board. The city of Chicago, and is not one. And
But they should be, right? There's a spot.
there's a spot there, there's a plea there, and no response because the Department of Environment is only a year old, and it doesn't compare to what used to be the Department of Environment. And then the other one is Indiana DNR, but we have Bakula that we talk to all the time, and so maybe because of their experience in 2007, they don't want to be on the board. I don't know. I never thought about it, but we can get them involved if necessary.
So is it my understanding this is like the Great Lakes watershed? Because I know like in Lake County here, Indiana, basically I think the watershed goes down to somewhere, divides off in Cherville, because St. John cannot get water from Lake Michigan because they're not in the watershed. So I'm assuming that's what it is, huh?
Yeah.
And we have nobody from Lake County that's involved in this?
Bill Emerson is the most active representative from, and his predecessor was two. We have he has more in common with the watershed than others in Lake County. So
Bill's a good resource for that, because that's
and
that's good.
He's a good friend of yours, right, Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so we have that. That's kind of the setup.
Michael, would you, I mean, at CMAP, I'm sure we have, it isn't me directly, but other people who know people at the city of Chicago. I can do some reaching out.
Okay. Because it's kind of, I mean, it's important to us that the city of Chicago is involved in a lawsuit over Wolf Lake terminals. It's a suit. And so when I appealed to the city of Hammond or to Department of Environment, I mentioned the fact that the city of Chicago is involved with us in the lawsuit over the watersheds, and that didn't get. I was trying to get her to respond to me, and she hasn't. So I don't know, but the thing to do is just to keep trying, and it's not like what the Department of Environment used to be, because and particularly with the southeast side, they were very active, and they represented the city of Chicago well. They had somebody in there on my board as well. So, but anyway, those are the two managers that aren't represented. And there are other questions. Is this, hopefully this, well, what should we tackle at the next meeting?
Well, I think some of in between here, like Lindsay, let's see. Well, like, so Jeff mentioned on the Illinois side, you know, we have the coastal management program, and then there's a similar on, of course, the Indiana side. I think I can look into certainly the Illinois, you know, talk with the Illinois DNR coastal program for opportunity, again, looking for, you know, what kind of funding opportunities are there for developing a watershed-based plan. Lindsay will let us know more about the 319 and the 205J program on the Indiana side.
I can do that.
And then, like I said, then there's that. First, I'll start with the Illinois DNR coastal program and go from there. I'm sure they know the people over on the Indiana side as well. So just kind of gathering information on available grant programs.
Well, and this is Jeff here. One of the things I think you need to think about is what's the area that you want to do the watershed plan for. If you go to the 12-digit HUC.
Yeah, see, that's the challenge, right? Because is the Wolf Lake Watershed well defined?
In Illinois, it's got, well,
yeah.
it includes the 12-digit HUC. If you look at it, it also includes Lake Calumet on the Illinois side. And one of the issues for 319 that you'd be running into is a lot of the issues there are point source legacy issues. And so from a 319 funding standpoint in Illinois, you'd have to really focus on how it's going to deal with the non-point source pollution.
Right.
So,
I mean, I think that's our well, I don't know, you know, that's to be discussed, but, you know, including Lake Calumet, I'm not sure that this group, I don't know what the boundary is that the group is interested in developing a plan.
You can cut it down to a smaller area, which has been done before, but smaller than 12-digit HUCs.
Would that change the eligibility for a 319 grant?
If it's fewer than or smaller than 12-digit HUC? No, you can do whatever size you want. And it's just a matter of, like, you know, if it's, you know, funding, we'd have to look at it from a, you know, how much money, or we ask for how many acres or square miles is the watershed, and then how much are you asking? And we will actually calculate how many dollars per acre is this, and does this make sense for the problems you're dealing with? So sometimes if you ask for a smaller amount of money for a smaller area, that's, you know, that's good particularly if it's really necessary. You know, what are the impairments that are there? Are they non-point source impairments? And we actually have a really good GIS web link where you look at the map on the Illinois side, because we all know that all environmental problems stop at the border. We don't know what goes on in Indiana. We care, but we just don't know.
Yeah. And again, I think it's a very, this watershed is unique in many ways, and it may have some unique challenges that, say, certainly more suburban or rural watersheds will be dealing with other things.
I always thought a watershed was the same size. So I don't understand.
The 12-digit HUC, so USGS, you know, divides the, you know, watersheds across the country into units, and the 12-digit HUCs are typically, I want to say, maybe 40 to 60 square miles. That kind of tends to be the size.
Okay. Anything else we should be talking about? Not knowing the size of watersheds really puts me out.
Again, we can define, you will get to that area where, define the area that's most interested in, also, storm sewers change boundaries. Again, we have a challenge, we have water flowing in from Lake Michigan, water flowing out from Lake Michigan. It gets a little challenging there, but, whatever area that the group decides on that wants to move forward.
Okay.
And I can send you the HUC information for Indiana as well.
Great.
What
Super.
the HUC 10 would be and the HUC 12s within that.
For the HUC 12 in Illinois, I think it looks like it's about 15 square miles.
Okay.
So if it's a similar amount on Indiana, but I mean, that's also including Lake Calumet, which you may not want to get into
Right.
for this. You might want to go to a smaller size.
Yeah, I would think it would be best to go to a smaller size because the Wolf Lake itself is not the same size on either side of the border. So I think it would be easier if we could reduce it.
And I think on our end, probably going no smaller than a HUC 12 would probably make you more competitive than just focusing on the lake itself. Just as far as what we typically receive as far as other applications.
So you're saying not smaller than a HUC 12 on the Indiana side?
Yeah, I mean, it probably could be done, but we don't typically. I mean, I would recommend probably applying at to do the HUC 12, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if it's smaller than a 12, it is. I mean, it could be done, but it's not off. I think we've actually done a couple because it's more like around Joliet in that area, where it can be. There's a lot of condensed problems. So that's one to look at. But 12 is usually the minimum that people ask for.
Okay. Maybe we'd end up with a HUC 13.
They used to have 14s.
Yeah.
So if you look up what the 14 was,
that might be worthwhile. Take a look. It sounds like we have some to-dos.
Yes, and I don't think there's anything more that we should be talking about. Holly?
I'm just looking at your talking points for today, Michael.
You know what? I can't find them.
Well, you reviewed the 2007 planning efforts. Recommending others to invite, in terms of like the count, sounds like you've invited 72 people, and I assume those included folks from NERPC and the city of Hammond and others. We've discussed a bit about funding and sources, and we'll be exploring that. And so then the topics for the next meeting, maybe just certainly reporting out on what we've found out about the funding sources.
And we need a time and a date. Do we not? So that would be the
end of May.
Last Wednesday in May. That's the 29th at 3 p.m. Central.
Works for me.
Okay. Everybody else okay with that?
Can you repeat the date again? April, what was it?
May 29th.
Oh, May, sorry. Okay.
May. May 29th at 3 p.m. Central. And as we grow closer to that date, Ollie, do you want to suggest topics for discussion?
I can do that besides funding.
Right, and I think we kind of discussed who we should invite, and I think most of the people, I'll go over the list again to make sure that we've tried everybody. And there is a lot of people from Hammond that and I'm going to continue to invite everybody, 72 people or whatever it is, or 74. I'm going to invite them every time we have the event, so nobody can say, well, you didn't include me. Well, someone could say that, but and I think that's a good idea. And I'll increase the number because I'll run across, or somebody's going to call me and tell me, hey, why don't you invite so and so? So I'll keep going. But I think the size of the group today was just great, and to get where we want to go, I think that's what we need.
I did think of another question I had.
Okay.
So the Army Corps, I know there's been talk about that. They did some restoration work. Well, the city of Hammond, was it like a 206 funding, like did a lot of habitat restoration work?
Yeah,
And would you recall what years that occurred in?
Yeah, that occurred in, most of the work was probably done in 06, 07, 2006, 2007, maybe 2008. That was the project was actually started in around 2001. I went to the early meetings and we were trying to get Chicago, Illinois involved in it because there was 8.9 million and 2 million was supposed to have gone to Illinois. The money was obtained by Indiana representative. And I can't think of his name at the time, but anyway, they got 8.9 and 2 million was to go to Illinois, but the two sides couldn't agree. So if all the work was done on the Indiana side. And it was,
I was trying to find a report about that on the Army Corps website, but it seems anything that old isn't easily found.
Well, it was shoreline restoration. And what they did is, because with what's the byproduct from the steel mills? Slag. With slag, you had no natural entry into the water. You know, your first step was 2 feet deep or a foot deep. So you had no little fisheries along the shoreline. And so everything was remade artificially. And with good results. It was, but anyway.
I saw some photos because I found Strand Engineering must have done the actual construction work and planting. So they had some nice pictures on their website, but there was no indication of any year. How does it still look pretty good today?
Yes, we did. Young Choi from Purdue, who's done major studies there in 2000, and then the most recent was, I think, 2011 and 2012. And that second study was to determine the effect of that work.
Oh.
Along the shoreline. And so he found an awful lot of improvement, but there was a lot of worry to things that weren't being done to protect it. And that work was never done. So I don't know if anyway, but there were improvements that are still felt, and so but some of it hadn't been protected as well as I would have liked it to be. But I have some, if you want, I have I'll look at what I have in my library, and I can send it to you, Holly, if you're interested
Certainly am.
in their work. Okay, I'll do that.
Or talk to Frank Veraldi. He was intimately involved. He has moved on to some other things, but he can tell you who to talk to who may have the files. If you really want to follow up on it. The
Okay.
major concerns was invasive species management.
Yeah.
That was it. But the cores there, they pulled out so long ago. It was handed
Yeah.
over to Hammond.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know Frank. So
Ask Frank. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And by
sounds
the way,
good.
send him the money, Phil, for for your book.
Yeah. Send him the money.
I did. I sent it to him.
He has bills to pay for that project. Yeah. We're wrapping that thing up.
That's great. Oh, and so I'm going to interview you early next year. Do we agree on that? I can't remember our last conversation.
Yes, you're getting the Powderhorn seminar in the next month or two.
Right. She's going to be there. And then you'll be available what month?
Sure. Next year? Sure. Like
Next
I know what I'm
year.
doing next spring.
I promise me anything. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but I have to apply for the grant. So
Oh, sure.
I'll
Put my name
put you
down.
next week.
That's fine. Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay. So okay, anything else? Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming. I think we learned a lot today, at least I did. And we'll be ready for May 29th, was that? I think I said that. Okay, so thank you, and let me back into it. How do I turn off the recording? I'm sorry.